Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun today because we're going to be talking about business stuff, but we're going to be talking about business stuff and dogs. Yay. So please join me in welcoming Michael Hill to our program today. Welcome, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Deb. Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. Anybody who follows me on social media knows that my world revolves around dogs and cats, and they're my little fur babies, and that's a big part of what brought you to what you're doing. So I'm going to tell everyone a little bit more about your story, and then we'll jump into this.
Okay.
So Michael Hill is the CEO and co-founder of Well Groomed Pets, spearheading innovation in pet care. Michael's passion for animal welfare grew after the loss of a beloved family pet that succumbed to cancer, a loss that may have been avoided with early intervention. Combining his desire to provide preventative care for pets with his business acumen, he launched Well Groomed Pets, knowing that pet groomers touch and see family pets 20 times more often than a veterinarian does. Under his leadership, the franchise has revolutionized pet grooming services, prioritizing quality and convenience while providing comprehensive nose-to-tail wellness check for every pet seen. So again, Michael, welcome.
Well, great to be here. And I want to add one thing. We get to talk about business, and then we're going to have fun because we're talking about dogs. And what's really cool about being in this space, and just a little side thing, we do a lot of presentations to partners, and so pitch decks, and all of our stuff has dogs on them, and it's just super fun to have that part of our business.
Right.
It's always looking at dogs and talking about dogs. So thank you.
I love it. Now, my cats are annoyed at you, though.
Yeah.
They don't be surprised if they don't come stomping in.
Yeah, no problem.
But, grooming a cat is a totally different thing to do, right?
It is. They're tough to train. Yeah, they're definitely different.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, it takes a brave person to groom a cat.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it is very different what you do. So tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today.
Well, just kind of going all the way back. So I started my career at Merrill Lynch. That's where I actually began my career. And then I became an entrepreneur during the dot-com days. And so through that, did some investing, and it was a bit of an angel investor. And I invested into a dental company. I ended up buying that company and ran it for 24 years. And that sounds a little bit disconnected from the story, but it's not. The dental industry is a very fragmented industry. Dentists themselves are not affiliated with any particular healthcare organization or hospital group. They're largely just entrepreneurs like you and me, and they build their own businesses. But I worked in the manufacturing side, also very fragmented. When I started in that industry, I had 12,000 competitors, a little more than that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. And that sounds like a lot. When I left, I sold my company to private equity in 2019, right before COVID. And then Chester, you mentioned sort of the personal story that sort of got me into this. I've always been a pet enthusiast, always saying hello to the dog way before the pet parent. It's like, hey, can I touch your dog? And you say hi. And so Chester was with me all the time. I mean, everywhere I went, he always was with me. And family dog. Went to the beach on the weekends. We ran. And Chester was getting older. He was about 8 years old. And we didn't notice the slowdown. We didn't notice the change in appetite. We kind of attributed it to
he's getting a little older.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, if there were things that were happening that if you had seen Chester when he was younger, you would notice it. But when you see your kid every day, your dog every day, you don't see that as much. And so we missed it. And then we finally realized something was going on, took him to the vet. And it was about a $10,000 bill. and he had canine cancer, and we ended up having to put him down. We couldn't save him. And that story, what I learned, is a common story. And here's some stats for you, and you may know these, and maybe your audience does or doesn't, but dogs have one of the highest occurrence of cancers of all mammals on the planet Earth.
Yep.
Cats, you have cats, are number one. Golden retrievers, that the breed is the highest in the entire world. They have like a 60-something% chance of getting cancer. And so I didn't know any of this. I knew that dogs were progressively getting less well. That was a story that was common in the news. And, you know, there was a lot of emerging healthcare or healthy brands, dog food in particular. And people always ask me, you know, what do you think, what causes that? And we don't focus so much on the root cause because we think there can be a lot. In fact, veterinarians,
it's like with people, there's no way of knowing.
You know, everything, like with people, we talk about stress, we talk about environmental conditions, right? Well, the same with dogs. I mean, dogs are laying on the ground. We put toxic chemicals on our floors to clean them, and then the food quality is not that great.
So who knows what's in that food,
right? It's like, what was it's like, what was the if you're a real American, you don't ask what's in a hot dog, right? It's like one of those things.
You don't want to know.
You just don't want to know. So, but there's a lot of brands that are trying to change that, but still, in our very personal experience, the loss of a dog to that kind of an illness, it was brutal. And when we lost Chester, you know, it used to be man's best friend. It's clearly family member now, right? We treat them very differently. We think about them very differently, and that hole that was in our family took me down that rabbit hole of, I've got to learn more about this. And so I started to look at wellness. I started to look at what some of the issues were, learned about this cancer really problem that exists globally. Well, at the same time, I was thinking like, well, how do you affect change here? How do you help pet parents? What's the pathway? And so that's where the stat comes in, that the only constituent in the pet industry that touches dogs more frequently and for a longer period of time, and not just longer every time they touch them, but longer for their whole life, is the dog groomer. Now, it's not every dog, but it's about half the population, a little more, right? And so with that became this opportunity. And so dog groomers are going to, and if you have dog groomers that watch this, they'll tell you, we'll see dogs. Some parents bring them in every week, some every 2 weeks. That's very expensive.
Especially if they're long coats or things like that they just need continual grooming.
Yeah, and you know, matting is one of the big problems. And what people don't understand is that as a dog's hair mats, it's actually pulling off the skin. So it's actually painful for the animal, right? Yeah, it does. It hurts. And so the average is going to be between 30 to 60 days, depending on the breed. And so when a veterinarian's seeing a dog every 650 days and a groomer is seeing them every 30 days, all of a sudden we have an opportunity. And also we view it as an obligation to be a part of to be an advocate really for the animal and help the pet parents see those changes. And so we'll get into this in just a second, but it's important to understand what we're measuring, what we're tracking in our salons is we're looking for change. So if you brought a sick dog into our salon, that would just be the baseline.
Right.
Now, if you got progressively worse, then we would say, hey, Deb, did you realize this just happened? Your dog lost weight or your dog, whatever. Right. But our goal and our objective is to see and measure and track the change in a dog's overall wellness. And so that's kind of where this whole thing started. So I wasn't going to franchise. Oh, by the way, I wanted to make a comment that I said that my old business was 12,000 competitors. Dog grooming, 130,000 competitors. Yeah. So very, very fragmented. And we'll talk about the business of this industry, and because I think that's you know, relevant to your customer base or your audience. But for us, I was just going to go and open up some salons and try to do it on my own. I worked in a fragmented industry. I was going to carry that expertise with me, that experience with me. And then some partners that I brought on who came from the franchising world told me that we could have greater impact. Yeah, this was one of those things, Deb. I knew that after selling my company and being an entrepreneur for 24 years, I knew that I could be competitive. And there were a lot of things I was looking at. I knew, you know, look, you're an entrepreneur. once you're an entrepreneur, it's the sickness, right? You can't,
Right. Oh yeah. You just can't. It's that drug. You just have to keep doing it.
you
Mm-hmm.
just have to. And
Mm-hmm.
so we look at the world very differently than most
Mm-hmm.
people. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was, where are the opportunities?
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I could be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And but franchising was a space I didn't know much about. I
Mm-hmm.
never had any experience with
Right.
it.
And you think McDonald's, right? That's
That's
probably
exactly
one of
right.
the best examples.
Yeah, and that feels like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That feels
Mm-hmm.
like, my goodness, that's a big
Mm-hmm.
lift. And so here's some interesting statistics. There's like 8,000 franchise
Mm-hmm.
systems in the United States, everything from lawn care to
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's to others.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs and dog grooming is
Mm-hmm.
is one of those as well. When I jumped into this, thinking about what was I going to do, one, I wanted to be competitive and be
Mm-hmm.
successful in my
Right.
venture, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously that you have to
Mm-hmm.
respect your business
Mm-hmm.
first.
Mm-hmm.
But this was one of those unique moments in time where I actually felt like maybe, there's a why behind what we
Mm-hmm.
do, or we're mission driven,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe we can actually move the needle on an entire industry
Mm-hmm.
and help pet parents
Right.
and help the providers,
Mm-hmm.
the groomers, really realize
Mm-hmm.
we have a role to play
Mm-hmm.
here, a very important role. And so, if we're doing it and our competitors start to do it, which we think is a great thing,
Mm-hmm.
and others start to do it,
Right.
who
It's
knows?
just for
Maybe
the benefit of the breed.
it helps everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the examples I use, we have some IP around our technology,
Mm-hmm.
largely around, it's mostly trade secrets because you're
Mm-hmm.
doing software and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do trainings, we
Mm-hmm.
open our trainings up to the whole
Oh,
industry.
cool. Mm-hmm.
When I think it was Mercedes invented the seat belt or the airbag, I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember exactly what it
Mm-hmm.
was. They could have patented that, but they did not do that. They
Right.
made it available because
Mm-hmm.
it was good. It's not good for people to be dying in cars. That hurts
Right.
their brand as anyone
Mm-hmm.
else's.
Yeah.
So making that stuff
Mm-hmm.
available to help everyone, I think that was a really smart
Mm-hmm.
thing that they did. And we're very collaborative in that way
Mm-hmm.
as well. We want to bring that kind of information. When we bring experts on, like for example, yourself, if you
Mm-hmm.
came in and you were teaching, hey,
Mm-hmm.
here's some things to think about from business,
Mm-hmm.
we would want to make that available to
Mm-hmm.
everybody because it
Right.
makes everybody more
Mm-hmm.
successful. That helps us and it helps
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so that's how we got into this. It all started with the story of this dog named Chester
Mm-hmm.
and this passion, my family's passion for pets,
Mm-hmm.
and how we wanted to, actually do something
Mm-hmm.
with it. And then it turns out it's a pretty good business,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of
Right.
growth happening. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you look at the industries, the
Mm-hmm.
macroeconomics of what's happening, the per capita
Mm-hmm.
spend and the designer breeds,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things are
Mm-hmm.
tailwinds, no pun intended,
Mm-hmm.
but they're tailwinds to I think a really
Mm-hmm.
wonderful industry to be a part of. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
how we started this venture.
Right. Well, as we're recording this, towards the end of November of 2024, how many franchises do you have?
So we're over 100 that have been sold. We launched
Wow.
in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
We
You
have
kind of had to wait till COVID calmed down, right?
oh yeah, I mean, well, that's interesting, right? Because that's one of the risks of this industry.
Mm-hmm.
It was considered non-essential by a
Right.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
industry. Dentistry, by the way, where I came from,
Mm-hmm.
was also non-essential.
Interesting.
That changed though pretty quickly when they
Right.
realized
Yeah, it
dogs were
was more
suffering.
long term because it was
Yeah,
only supposed to be 2 weeks. You could go
right,
2 weeks without going to the dentist. Yeah.
right. And so also, so that kind of took away some of that
Mm-hmm.
risk, that
Mm-hmm.
pandemic
Mm-hmm.
related risk, because they realized we've got to care for these animals.
Mm-hmm.
They're in pain and they're suffering.
Well, and basically you could leave them at the door and
Yeah,
and have no human interaction.
yeah, or somebody would go to your car
Mm-hmm.
and not
Mm-hmm.
bring you in. Yeah, there
Right.
was a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think folks were very innovative on how they
Mm-hmm.
thought about how to be helpful there.
Mm-hmm.
And then dog food. If you served
Mm-hmm.
dogs, I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
serve dogs. If you provided dog
Mm-hmm.
foods, like the waiters,
Mm-hmm.
if you
Yeah, on the
provided,
platter.
yeah, exactly. If you provided dog food
Mm-hmm.
and they could buy dog food, then you were
Mm-hmm.
considered an essential business. And
Oh,
so a lot of
okay.
groomers kind of
Ah,
creatively
that's
worked
an
their way
interesting
through that.
little loophole. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, that's what it was. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so yeah, so that's what our trajectory looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and we're opening a salon we have 2 salons opening up in December.
Mm-hmm.
We're opening 1 to 2 a month. We've
Mm-hmm.
been doing that now for a while. It takes a while. You sell them, and then they have to be built, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to go through
Mm-hmm.
zoning and codes
Mm-hmm.
and whatever, and then it takes about 9 to 12 months to
Mm-hmm.
actually open a salon. So we're starting to see the benefit of all that
Mm-hmm.
early work now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and my assumption is that you learn each time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, this building inspector, or in this state, they're going to be looking for this. And in this state, they're going to be looking for that. And then you can
Yeah.
kind of work your way around them and things like that. And because, I mean, that the thing with the franchise is that the primary franchisor
Yeah. Yeah.
is doing a good bulk of the work, but it is the person who's doing the investment who they're the boots on the ground. They're
Yeah.
the people meeting the inspector. They're the people, who are looking for the initial property. I mean, all of those things.
Yeah. So when I sold my company, one of the things, look, you've been an entrepreneur for 24 years.
Mhm.
You're basically unemployable
Right.
because
You don't want to be
everybody's,
bossed around.
yeah. Well, there's that, the personality, the crazy
Mhm,
between the
mhm,
ears. But also, you don't tend to be an expert in any functional area of
mhm.
business.
Right.
You're knowledgeable, you're good,
Mhm,
you have a vision,
mhm,
but every single person that I hired for my company
mhm,
was better at their job than I
mhm.
was. And
Right.
so,
Which was the way
where do
you
you,
were supposed to be doing.
and
Mhm,
that's the way, yeah. And but
mhm,
then that sort of the curse is, well, now what do you do, right?
mhm,
And I'm an older guy, but I felt like I was still too young, and
mhm,
I needed to get back in, and that
mhm,
that energy of
mhm,
trying to build something and
mhm.
make a difference. And I think that when you think about franchising, so what I was going to say is when I left, the first thing I did is I took a job as a consultant with the Small Business Administration, and
Oh,
so it was a
okay.
nonprofit,
Mhm, mhm,
and we were helping small businesses or entrepreneurs
mhm,
start, grow, and expand their
mhm,
companies. And so I worked with a couple of hundred companies,
mhm,
and through the pandemic,
mhm,
tried to navigate some of the
mhm,
challenges that they were working with. But all my colleagues were giving me all the dog companies. Hey,
mhm,
here's an
mhm,
indoor dog
mhm,
park. Here's
mhm,
an indoor or here's a pet treat
mhm,
company, or here's a groomer. And
mhm,
so it helped me with the research and the
mhm,
dive and the diligence that I
mhm,
did to understand.
mhm,
But what I'll tell you is the SBA will tell you that 9 out of 10 small businesses are going to fail within the first 5 years.
mhm,
And it's a big number.
mhm.
But in the franchising industry, that number is far, far less.
Right. Because all that groundwork has been done.
Exactly. We when we start companies, and I know that this is a shared experience. When
Mhm,
you start something from scratch, you're learning.
mhm,
And a lot of family wealth becomes tuition so that
mhm,
you can learn how to build that
mhm.
business. When you work
Right.
with a franchise
Mhm,
business, they've done the learning. And
mhm.
so
Right.
your investment is no
Mhm,
longer tuition,
mhm.
it's growth capital. And
Right.
so that's a really important
Mhm,
distinction to think about. And whether it's our franchise or anybody
mhm.
else's, I mean, they
Right.
tend to be a
Mhm.
much better investment when you're being a startup.
Right. Well, and a lot of your initial investment when you're starting a business is things like developing your logo,
Yeah.
the branding, all of those things. And of course, with a franchise, that's done.
Yeah. Well, you bring up such a good point. As an angel investor, somebody who invests in small
Mhm,
businesses, it's always a challenge when it's a very, very early stage company
mhm.
because they might spend ten or fifteen
Right.
thousand dollars on logos, and
Mhm,
you're like, wait a minute, what are we doing?
mhm,
And so, helping them understand how to run a lean
mhm,
operation where a lot
mhm.
of that has been thought through.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they can't do their own thing, of
Mhm,
course, but they tend to be safer
mhm,
investments. They
mhm,
tend to provide sort of a structure where
mhm,
your entrepreneurial energy
mhm.
can really focus on growth rather than
Right.
building. By the time you
Mhm,
get these things built, a lot of people are burnt out. But
mhm,
if you've got a business that is
mhm,
already sort of canned or baked in,
mhm,
now you can really go and grow and
mhm,
expand your
mhm.
company.
Right. And 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 it helps also because you've got the other entrepreneur owners that are kind of
Yeah.
your own little mastermind group. And so, somebody new or even somebody who's been doing it for a long time can say, hey, this has come up. What do y'all think? And somebody's probably going to say, "Ooh, had that happen?" Or and so you are kind of like I said, you are this own little mastermind group.
Yeah.
And hopefully you get big enough that it's not just maybe you get together once a year, but then it's regional type of things and
Right.
things like that. And of course, technology makes all of this wonderful. We can do so much online, and but yeah, it's the been there done that's are incredible benefits.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that, and then we can maybe talk about tech. But the one thing I wanted to mention, that learning curve. Even when
Mm-hmm,
you're
mm-hmm,
building your own business
mm-hmm,
in a franchise system, you learn how
mm-hmm.
to work with the building departments,
Right.
as you pointed out. You learn how to work with contractors. You learn how to hire people. Maybe you've never had that experience and how to manage them. And obviously you've got in franchising, you have a support team around you that can help you navigate a lot of that. We're no different than any others. We think we do it better, but it doesn't really matter. It's just that the support is there. And I think one of the benefits of our system is we only sell multi-units. And so here's an interesting point. There are 130,000 dog grooming businesses out there. Almost 90% are single locations run by single owners.
They have a table.
They have a table. And it's really hard to step away and build that real wealth for their family and value in your venture when you're working in your business. You need to work on your business. And so
if you don't have your hands on a dog, you're not making money, which means that you're not off networking or, heaven forbid, taking a vacation.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And what a great point. And I think they get lost in that and they think, oh, today I'm going to do this because it saves me a little bit of money. But really in the long run, it's costing you a lot of money. It's the opportunity cost. And so we sell multiple units. And what happens is they learn how to build that first store. We get them to a point where they're successful. And now they go to the second store. Well, now they're pros. They know how to do it. They've cut their teeth. They understand the challenges, and it's great. By the time they're at their, and we have many. We launched in 2022, but we have many owners who already have their second salons up and running and making money. And now you go to salon number 3, and it's like, hey, Mike, don't call us. We'll call you.
Yeah, we got it.
Just keep supporting the brand and keep the training and all the other things that we do, which is great because now all of our conversations are about success. How do we become more successful? How do we find new revenue opportunities? And we do that collaboratively. Are we perfect? By no means. I don't know of a single one that is. McDonald's isn't perfect. There are always opportunities, but with a great support system of peers and colleagues who are doing the same thing on the same trajectory, totally in markets unrelated to yours where you're not competitors, but you can pick the phone up and go, Deb, I've got a problem here. This groomer today wants a raise. I don't know what to do. You can have that. How did you handle that? And so that's a really powerful moment for entrepreneurs to realize they're not siloed. I think one of the reasons why 90% of our industry is single owner operators with one location is they don't have that support. They don't have that team around them. They're working again in the business. And so that was our intentional strategy, was to help bring that resource forward and help these folks own 2, 3, 5. We have 2 salon owners who are multi-unit owners who have just come back to us asking to buy many, many more units in their market. And so we protect that, we keep it safe. And now your friends, your colleagues are not competitors, but you all share in a very similar experience. And so that was a really important, I think it was a great insight when you talked about that part of you've got to learn, your boots on the ground, you've got to learn, and you do that on your own. But once you know it, now what? Well, let's go open another one and grow.
Well, and what I love too is that in a lot of ways, they don't have to be the groomers. In fact, I'm guessing probably many of them are not the groomers.
In our business, none of them are.
Yeah. They are the managers. And, and that's the thing, as an entrepreneur, you go into doing whatever it is, landscaping, because you love landscaping.
Yeah.
Well, then, things get bigger and you're having to hire. Then you got to get a bookkeeper. Then you got to learn how to do the marketing. And pretty soon you haven't touched a plant or a mower in months. And so then you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I wanted to mow. I wanted to plant. And so when you're doing the business like what you're doing, they're okay with not touching the dogs. They might even love that they're not touching the dogs, right? Yeah. Because for them, it's more about being that support system and managing it. Yeah.
I think most of the owners who've come into our system, they've come in because they have a deep passion for animals. They love, and they have maybe 3 or 4, and they know that, man, if I go to a grooming salon, I'd save myself a lot of money. But they have a deep passion for it. And they don't want to be groomers. They don't want to be front office staff. Now, that's not to say that that's a bad thing. If somebody wants to hang a shingle and do that, it's a wonderful industry to be involved in. It's hard, it's tough, but it's a great industry to be involved in. And I always look at things from a risk profile, like a risk perspective. What are my opportunities here, and then what could go terribly wrong? So you start with looking at an industry. Well, 2 things. there have been 28 economic downturns since the Great Depression in the United States, and the pet industry has grown through 27 of them. The only
Wow.
one that did not grow was COVID, when they said non-essential, shut them down. Other than that, and then, by the way, the next year when it was all open, it made all of that growth back and then
Right.
continued to grow. So it's a recession-proof industry. Also, it's very hard for me to imagine, and I am a tech guy. I've had two software companies. I'm a tech guy, and so when I think about the risk of AI or technology replacing this industry, I don't see it. Dogs are not static animals. They don't understand any things that are going on. You need to be able to handle them properly. There are drying machines and things like that. There's there are some interesting pieces of technology out there, but I think we're largely AI proof. And Amazon and big e-commerce isn't going to replace this either, because we're groomers first, we're retail second. Now, there are retailers who are retail first and groomers second.
Right. Like a PetSmart type of thing.
Exactly. And I think those businesses are at risk from online commerce, because that's where they get most of their revenue. But we get most of our revenue. Actually, we get our revenue in a lot of different areas, and we'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, so when you're looking at a business, I think, evaluate the long-term risks of technology, big commerce, evaluate the sort of industry economics and how is it done, how's it performed over time. And that's not to say that there's not a lot of great things to go into, but you always want to understand so that you can plan for contingencies, right? It's just simple.
Right. And it is a huge business. I just Googled the number of homes in the US with dogs. And according to Google, 65.1 million, which is 45.5% of all homes in the US, have a dog. Now, that's kind of, that's an average, right? But almost half of every home has a dog, probably more than one. They might have other critters, all sorts of things. But then, of course, the key thing to that is then we spend money on them. We don't just have them, we spend money on them, whether it's getting them groomed, buying toys, all of those various things. It's just a huge business, and it is a growth business. I don't ever see, at least in my lifetime, people going, I don't want dogs. That's just not going to happen. If anything, they're going to say, I don't want kids. And in fact, we have dogs and cats. We don't have kids. And now, was that a conscious decision? No, but yeah, I think we see that more and more, where it also, your kids go away to college and you're like, oh, okay, now I've got room for a dog, a cat, an iguana, whatever it is that you've got. I keep thinking of this. I have a younger cousin who is an exotic animal veterinarian, and he has started doing posts every day on Facebook with whatever he's saying. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Well, that's cool.
But yeah, it is a business that is just going to grow. And so why not be a part of that?
Yeah, and I think first of all, we'll talk about niche too, because you're just talking about this veterinarian who carved out a niche for himself within that space. But also, when you think about growth, people always publish a number, and it's called the CAGR. So CAGR, compounded annual growth rate, and it looks at an industry over time. And what is the compounded annual growth rate for this particular year? The pet industry, there's only a handful of industries like this, but the pet industry has an accelerating CAGR.
Right.
And you might see that in like AI or AI-enabled technologies and things like that, and data businesses. But what's cool about this is an industry that has been around for over 2,000 years.
Right. Cleopatra and all, they had their animals that were groomed.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so modern grooming hasn't really changed much in the last 50, 70 years. We're starting to see some new things and some new approaches, and private equity is paying attention, and they're rolling it up and using technology and other services or other kinds of tools to make that a little bit more efficient. But when you're making those decisions, and you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur, understanding those elements. It's not just, I've got a great idea. Everybody's got a great idea. You know that, I know that.
Right.
but you've got to understand, what does this market really look
Mm-hmm.
like? Are you addressing some unmet demand that's
Right.
out there so that you can build something special, differentiated,
Mm-hmm.
unique, and grow it?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can take a few minutes and chat about that for a
Mm-hmm.
second.
Right. Let's do, go ahead and expand on that.
Yeah, so looking at an industry like ours, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we have 130,000 businesses. And
Mm-hmm.
if you said what makes, Jan down the street different than Steve over, across the river, what's the difference? And largely the difference is going to be Yelp ratings, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will go online and look at who's got
Right.
the best
Mm-hmm.
ratings.
Mm-hmm.
It might be price. And generally entrepreneurs go right to the bottom. When
Mm-hmm.
they're coming out, they
Mm-hmm.
don't they just
Right.
think, oh, I'm going to come in and I can
Mm-hmm.
save some money because I'm going to do the work. And
Mm-hmm.
and what they're really doing is they're just hiring, they're giving themselves a job. They're investing a
Right.
whole bunch of
Mm-hmm.
money
Mm-hmm.
to give themselves a job. That's not a way to really think
Mm-hmm.
about business from my
Mm-hmm.
perspective. That doesn't mean it's not okay. I mean, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
do that and just that's your thing, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But how do you differentiate in a
Mm-hmm.
deeply established,
Mm-hmm.
highly competitive
Mm-hmm.
industry? There are some folks who do creative grooming. And
Mm-hmm.
so they focus on making poodles look like giraffes,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's an awesome business. And if that
Mm-hmm.
is your skill set and you can be really good at
Mm-hmm.
that, there's a handful of folks who do it extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
One of my very dear friends who helped me in this industry
Mm-hmm.
is he is like one of the best at it. And he's got a great, very successful business with
Mm-hmm.
that kind of space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you become
Mm-hmm.
a value,
Mm-hmm.
position yourself at the lower
Right.
end of the market? But I don't mean lower end from quality,
Mm-hmm.
but just value.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, then you're not going to build a business that is
Right.
in high-end retail,
Mm-hmm.
because now your economics don't match
Yeah.
your
There's only so
vision.
many hours in the day.
Right. And so you got to think through it. But today there's probably the best opportunities in the world to differentiate yourself. And you can differentiate
Mm-hmm.
yourself through services that you
Mm-hmm.
offer,
Mm-hmm.
the kinds of dogs that you
Mm-hmm.
like. There's small dog groomers. I only
Right.
do small
Mm-hmm.
dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're waiting, and if it's a small dog,
Mm-hmm.
I can get him in and out in maybe 45
Right.
minutes, an
But if
hour.
you've got a newfie, that's going to be a lot of time.
Well, and large doodles. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
3.5 hours. And so
Right.
depending on this is the trick, I think, in this industry is
Mm-hmm.
how do you serve a small
Mm-hmm.
Chihuahua and then
Mm-hmm.
also take care of a Newfoundland.
Right.
I mean, these are
Right.
big differences.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you price that? And how do
Mm-hmm.
you think about that in your business? How do you schedule?
Mm-hmm.
And so differentiation of breed,
Mm-hmm.
of quality, of
Mm-hmm.
price, these are just some of the things that you can
Mm-hmm.
do. But then also adding additional services.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do wellness checks, we don't
Mm-hmm.
call them exams. That's for
Mm-hmm.
healthcare professionals.
Right.
We do
Mm-hmm.
wellness checks.
Mm-hmm.
We do it across a number of categories. So
Mm-hmm.
we do physical, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
number of great brands that do
Mm-hmm.
physical. So that's all the skin, the ears, the
Mm-hmm.
eyes, things like that. Then we will also do behavioral.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a conversation with the pet parent about what's changed with your animal.
Right. Are we biting? Are we whatever? Mm-hmm.
Well, you talked about your animals around COVID, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
when COVID happened, your animals are like, okay, that's it, we're staying home. But
Mm-hmm.
now if you leave, there's like higher anxiety.
Yeah.
Right?
There goes that stress level. They've abandoned
Exactly.
us, and the cats are like, finally.
Yeah, get out of the house, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm.
So I think helping, so thinking about behavioral
Mm-hmm.
issues and the behavior, the stress, the anxiety that
Mm-hmm.
when dogs go through that,
Mm-hmm.
it is massively detrimental, much more so even to humans,
Right.
because it has
Mm-hmm.
it's such a compressed moment for
Mm-hmm.
them that
Mm-hmm.
it's just,
Mm-hmm.
from a health perspective, it's just a
Right.
big deal. You
And
gotta
it
think,
shows up frequently in the skin.
oh gosh,
That
yeah.
really is where you're going to see a great portion of it, where they're blowing coat, they've got ulcers, whatever it is.
Yep.
And you're going, what the heck's wrong with my dog?
Right. And so that's another good point. Like we'll do lump and lesion mapping. We use digital calipers from my dental
Wow.
days
Mm-hmm.
where we measure teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're
Mm-hmm.
measuring bumps and lumps.
Right.
We record it. The dogs come
Yeah.
back. We
Are they
know where
old
it is.
dog bumps? Are they a concerning bump? Mm-hmm.
Is it a bite from a spider or something,
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to make sure, again, this comes to that whole cancer thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
if we can just be a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a Chihuahua at home. My wife has 2 Chihuahuas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a golden retriever guy.
I was gonna say, you got Chihuahuas?
Yeah, I know. Listen,
You're not a
well,
Chihuahua guy.
she also has a pig, and we have a chicken, and so
Okay.
there's
You've got the zoo.
Yeah, we own a zoo. Yeah, isn't that a movie? Yeah, I think. But my point in that is these animals have things that happen to them all day long, and we don't see them. Ukulele, one of our Chihuahuas, does have a little bump on his head, and it's been there forever. Now we didn't know if it was growing or not, so now we're measuring it, and we can kind of see, and if that thing starts to grow, then we'll say, hey, let's go to the vet. And Chester had bumps, but they were pretty common for Goldens, and they weren't necessarily anything to be concerned about. We weren't. Bella doesn't have that right now, but we'll wait and see what happens. And so Bella's our Golden. By the way, it's kind of fun, just sort of side. The technology we use in our business, we named it after my dog. So Chester's all of our wellness tech.
I love it.
After our automation and some of the AI that we do.
I love it. I love it. And like you're saying, we don't catch those things. Now, we're kind of funny, pet parents, because we do tend to notice a lot more. I remember one time we took one of our dogs into the vet because we had a dog that had cancer, and it was a minor one, removed it, everything was okay. But then and we have beagles, and beagles tend to develop cancer very quickly. It's why they're unfortunately used in research. But so Allie McBeagle, and she was just like la la la, right? And we noticed she had a thing on her nose, and we're like, we go dashing her into our vets, who loved us dearly because we paid probably half their mortgage. And they examine Allie and they poke her, and they do all of that, and then they looked at us and they said, do you have a chain link fence? We said, yeah. Well, she had been jamming her nose through the chain link fence, but a lot of other people would not have noticed that. And we were glad that we did, because then we were like, stupid dog. It's, and I love what you're talking about, because it's like, the physical therapist with people. They notice the things that are wrong with the person, and the groomer notices with the dogs, because for one thing, they've got their hands on them. And they're feeling and they're touching all those things. And they're also moving their joints and doing things that you might not even do as that pet parent. And they're going to realize, wait a minute, that front shoulder is starting to get a little arthritic, or, what's going on here, what's going on there. And, and I love that is just a service that you provide.
Well, so again, just category wise, and I'll mention that you talked about that mobility piece, or where there's pain by moving these animals, they might wince, and it's like, oh gosh, what's going on here? Maybe they strain something, or maybe it's more serious. So we do physical, we do physiological. So weight, we're looking for. That's a big one, by the way. The changes in weight, pet parents don't see it. That is the major clue for something going on with an animal. And obesity is a huge problem among canines, and it cuts
and my cat, she's got to go on a diet. Poor Dash.
It's I'm Italian, and unfortunately, my dog's always benefited from some pasta sauce on their
just
food.
A little bit, with no onions, because onions are bad.
So then lifestyle. What kind of home are they in? Are they socializing? Are there other animals there? What's the exercise routine look like? What dog food do they eat? How often do they eat? How much do they eat? And so now when you take all of this, and so this kind of comes back to that differentiation and how you think about a business, we were looking for ways to unpack value beyond just dog grooming. And so now with all of these data points, and by the way, we have over 3 million data points in just really about the first 18 months, because most of the salons have just opened. And now we can have conversations with pet parents about healthy lifestyle for their animals, toys. If you have a golden retrievers, which obviously I do, I said that, they like puzzles. They like toys that are puzzles, and they're very bright, and they're problem solvers. Other dogs are high energy, and so they want things that move, or that they can chase or do something with. And so helping pet parents see that and understand that not every
Mine
dog
are the squeaker removers.
That's another one. Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of the small dogs are. That's that's what's going to really trigger them. It's chasing the rodents and chasing the things that squeak. And but my point is, all of these data points become opportunities to have conversations with pet parents. So I talked to you about revenue. We are on a mission. We believe that our royalties are we think they're very reasonable. So the monthly fees that we charge to a franchisee to be in our system are pretty reasonable. I would say they're in the long run, they're
Mhm.
making a lot more money with us because we flat rate our royalties.
Mhm.
So the more money they make, the more money they keep. It's not a
Right.
percent of sales,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But more importantly is all the other things that we're focused on. So our
Mhm.
goal, 9 revenue streams,
Mhm.
our goal is to 10x
Mhm.
the revenue
Mhm.
from our royalties. This is our franchise system.
Mhm.
From our royalties, 10x it so that
Mhm.
our franchisees are participating in shared revenue with
Mhm.
us at a level that actually grows
Wow.
their business and ours
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
significantly. And so we try to be very intentional about
Mhm.
that. And I think when you are in a space that's highly competitive,
Mhm.
I don't think you can rely on a core
Mhm.
service to pay all your
Mhm.
bills and achieve all of your
Mhm.
life dreams. You really have to think differently
Mhm.
about what else can I do? What
Mhm.
else can I offer? And we know the pet parents are spending more
Mhm.
money. I mean, the economics are there.
Mhm.
It's an acceleration of capital spend. There's no reason why you, the trusted resource, the
Mhm.
person who takes care of the family
Mhm.
member, can't have a conversation with a pet parent about a service or a
Mhm.
product that potentially can generate revenue
Right.
for you. And
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
just thinking intentionally about
Mhm.
that, I think that's an important part of,
Mhm.
how you build a business
Mhm.
in this space. You just
Mhm.
have to think beyond the core business
Mhm.
and think, well, what else can I do?
Right, right. And it might seem, totally out of the box, but maybe that's where it's going to work.
Yeah.
And so you kind of look at other things. What are other businesses doing? Like you said, during COVID, people really got innovative
Yeah.
with what they were doing. Restaurants all of a sudden were developing drive-throughs, or all of those various things.
Yeah.
And so it is, what do they say? Mother is the necessity of invention.
Yeah.
Or did I say that wrong? Necessity is the
Necessity is
mother
the
of
mother of,
invention. There
yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
I knew I had the right words, just
Where
wrong
everybody
order.
understood it. Yeah.
I know.
100%. Yeah.
Yep. And so, but I love that, you do that. And I'm assuming then that you encourage folks to say, hey, have you ever thought about X?
Yeah, totally. And that's again another advantage of being in a
Mm-hmm.
franchise system
Mm-hmm.
because, for example, let's say Deb, you came up with an idea. You were one of our
Mm-hmm.
owners, and you're
Mm-hmm.
working on your business,
Mm-hmm.
but you had an idea. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
what about a pheromone
Mm-hmm.
treatment?
Mm-hmm.
Because it calms the animals,
Right.
and you decide that
Mm-hmm.
you would like to start that product.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as part of our franchise
Mm-hmm.
system, we got a whole bunch of customers
Mm-hmm.
ready for you right now
Right.
who are retailers who
Mm-hmm.
could carry it, and we can build it
Mm-hmm.
into our
Mm-hmm.
business and our system. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's an ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we talk a lot of, and I try not to be shameless about this. We talk a lot about our business, and yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge enthusiast, and I think we're doing
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Not perfect, but I think we're really special.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some other great ones out there too
Mm-hmm.
that are also doing
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
My message to an entrepreneur would be start by doing your homework
Mm-hmm.
on franchise systems.
Right.
If you
Mm-hmm.
still want to do it on your own, at least
Mm-hmm.
you've learned from
Mm-hmm.
successful
Right.
brands
Right.
what's
Mm-hmm.
working and what's
Mm-hmm.
not.
Right. Yeah. And obviously there's tons out there. We were talking before the program. I've had a guest on many years ago who, her franchise was indoor putt-putt golf. And she
Yeah.
started it in Pennsylvania because you had to be indoors most of the time,
Yeah.
And so, that was one where, necessity was the mother of invention. See, I got it right that time.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I would think that for the most part, if you want to do it, there's probably a franchise out there that exists. And so, like you said, at least explore it and see. You might go, no, I want to go on my own, but you will have seen, if you've really done your research, how are they pricing? What are they, how are they doing it? And then you might think I can do that on my own.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that I was, like I said, I was an
Mm-hmm.
individual entrepreneur for a long time. This
Mm-hmm.
is my first, salvo
Mm-hmm.
into franchising, and I've got
Mm-hmm.
great partners around
Mm-hmm.
me. Our franchise owners, whether you're in Henderson or you're in Fort Worth or you're
Mm-hmm.
in Atlanta, as you pointed
Mm-hmm.
out, and
There's
one of our
one,
newer
just
ones.
one,
Yeah,
all
we're
of
coming.
Atlanta.
We got more. We got more coming. It
Okay.
just takes a
Okay.
minute. But those folks have also been trained and supported
Mm-hmm.
in a special way so
Mm-hmm.
that when they're caring for the animals that
Mm-hmm.
come in,
Mm-hmm.
they have there's a different expectation. one contemporary brand, right?
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
a lot of dog groomers, and this isn't meant to be a knock, but when you walk in, the customer experience isn't great.
Mhm.
They're loud, they're smelly, they're a little bit
Mhm.
messy. There smells like wet dog,
Mhm.
and that impacts how you're perceived
Mhm.
when you are pricing out your products or your
Right.
services.
Mhm.
So if you can have a contemporary brand, which is what
Mhm.
we've built, a more
Mhm.
modern brand, and has great customer
Mhm.
experience, then all of a sudden they look and they go, well, this is a little bit different. And then
Mhm.
you add some elements like
Mhm.
wellness,
Mhm.
and I think we are today, I believe we are the most comprehensive in wellness.
Mhm.
It's over 50 points. It's closer
Mhm.
to 70 points
Wow.
now, and we have more coming.
Mhm.
And the other thing, it's built into our workflow. It
Mhm.
can be a little disruptive, but
Mhm.
it's not terribly
Mhm.
disruptive because we designed our business
Mhm.
to do this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you think
As you're
about,
doing the grooming, you're also doing the wellness.
right, and then we use technology to make that easy to
Mhm.
record and easy to
Mhm.
track. And so with our technology, and now with we're working on these AI models where
Mhm.
we can help be predictive. So, for
Mhm.
example, if you have a beagle who
Mhm.
comes in and it's 6 years old, I can compare your dog's
Mhm.
profile to
Mhm.
all of the other
Right.
six-year-old beagles,
Mhm.
and then I can do it
Mhm.
geographically. And
Mhm.
so, like I think about Purina, and I think
Mhm.
about Hills, and I think about some
Mhm.
of these other great dog food companies that have built these incredible
Mhm.
brands.
Mhm.
Purina's got about 55, 60 million customers.
Mhm.
How much information do they really have about the dog? They know a lot
Mhm.
about the pet parent.
Mhm.
Their primary point
Mhm.
of contact is the cash register. So
Right.
they know the pet parent, where they live,
Mhm.
how much money they
Mhm.
make, the kind of house they live in,
Mhm.
household income, all
Mhm.
those things. But do they know who's eating the dog food?
Mhm.
Do they know what kind of breed, what age,
Right.
what gender?
Mhm.
And so by helping the dog food companies,
Mhm.
by being a partner in the
Mhm.
ecosystem and say, we're tracking all of
Mhm.
this. I can tell you how often they're eating,
Mhm.
which brand they're eating,
Mhm.
the dogs. And now you can
Mhm.
compare, okay, what's the health profile and the
Mhm.
wellness profile
Mhm.
of all the dogs that are
Mhm.
eating this particular Purina brand
Right.
at the same
Mhm.
quantity during roughly the same time
Mhm.
period. And now messaging becomes different. And
Mhm.
so, there's a partner element to this that strengthens the
Mhm.
brand. Then there's a revenue element
Mhm.
that strengthens the business and kind
Mhm.
of the future of what that could look like. And then there's this, as you pointed out, this collaboration of
Mhm.
community that shares ideas and where
Mhm.
we can be thought leaders and really
Mhm.
lean in on wellness and grooming and whatever
Mhm.
else it might be. And I'll just leave you with this. We have three elements. The way we built our business is we have
Mhm.
three business units. We have our sales business unit.
Mhm.
And so that's really about qualifying, making sure that they're right for us and we're right for them and that we want them to be successful.
Mhm. Mhm.
And believe me, that's a big part of it. If you saw
Mhm.
that movie, The Founder, I think it was the
Mhm.
McDonald's, and
Mhm.
how important it was to find the right franchisees
Mhm.
who get it and believe in the
Right.
mission.
Yeah.
That's
Because it's
critical.
an investment for you also.
Oh my goodness. We spend a massive amount of money supporting, which is our second business unit. So the first one's
Mhm.
sales, then we go to support, and support
Mhm.
starts from the time you sign until
Mhm.
90 days after you
Mhm.
open. You have a team that's
Mhm.
dedicated we do drawing, site
Mhm.
location, we help with
Mhm.
your lease, we help with building,
Mhm.
ordering equipment, supplies, hiring. I mean,
Mhm.
all the things that we do. Constantly training on our
Mhm.
technology and on how to really evaluate groomers. A lot, like I said to you before, most of our owners don't come from the grooming industry. They
Right.
see the advantage and the
Mhm.
opportunity, but they need that help, and that's what our
Mhm.
support team does. And then finally, we end with our success team, and our
Mhm.
success team is teaching them about financial acumen and paying attention to your
Mhm.
P&L and how do you build a business.
Mhm.
And here's this is my bias. I like finances, my background. I think the secrets of the universe for every business is contained within a P&L, and you
Mhm.
must become an expert at understanding
Right.
how to look at your
Mhm.
P&L and ask
Mhm.
questions about what's
Right.
happening in your
Mhm.
business. And so
Mhm.
that's how we built
Mhm.
our support system. And we learn a lot from the
Mhm.
folks that come in, everything from
Mhm.
customer service folks to accountants
Mhm.
to other franchisees,
Mhm.
professional franchisees who have been successful
Mhm.
in tanning salons and other things, but they've come into our franchise
Mhm.
because they see this opportunity as
Mhm.
well. So that's a little bit about how we've I think,
Mhm.
what we try to bring forward. The
Mhm.
brand is great, but how do you be successful as a business
Mhm.
person? That's really where we
Right.
lean.
Right. Yeah, because for many people, they might very well be investing a chunk of their life savings in doing something like this.
Yeah.
And they want to know that you have done your due diligence, right? And it's that way with everything. I mean, McDonald's go bankrupt and close. We see places close all the time where you're like, but wait a minute, that's one of the names.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
happens. And so yeah, you want to see that. And it really is, it takes the stress away from a lot of this. One of the things that I hear so many business owners talk about is, it's like I said, we got into it to do X. Yeah. And I never get to do that anymore. Yeah. Or I never thought I would have to. And they don't want to do that. Right. And it's, for those who do, I mean, and we all know people like that, right? Yeah. Who they know tax code, and you're like, why? I hire a CPA. Why? I operate on what I call the 15-minute rule. If it's going to take me more than 15 minutes to do something that's not the core of what I should do, then I should outsource it. Even if it's something I like, it just needs to go to somebody else where it's a better use of time and energy. But then that allows me to focus on what I want to do. But yeah, it's, I love it. And it's, I was looking on your website. Oh my gosh, the pictures of, you call them salons. These are like high-end beauty salons for women. I mean, if I were to look at this without knowing what it was, now I would be thinking, okay, the tables are a little odd, but yeah, look at it.
Come here, Deb, lay down on this one.
Yeah, on this real short table, your knees are going to hang up, but yeah, I mean, it's very high end, very, and of course, then I know, okay, it's going to cost a little bit more than when I'm going to somebody who's doing this in their garage, but I'm going to get much better care for my beloved animal, by doing that.
Yeah. I think that the brand is a big part of that, and that people who invest in these franchises, whether it's us or another brand, they want to go to work feeling good about what they just invested in, and so having a nice brand is important. I will say that a lot of franchisees, they do need some hand-holding, because if it's your first salvo into entrepreneurship, a lot of times they overspend. They want to build a monument to themselves. Look at how great my business is, but they don't have the business.
I want to have 20 tables as opposed to 4.
And let's just get started. Let's kind of grow. You and I were talking. I don't think it was at the beginning of this, but I think it was right before we started. I was sharing with you. One of the challenges that entrepreneurs have, and I'm an entrepreneur, and so I sit on the same side of the table. I'm super passionate about startup. I give of my time working for a nonprofit to help startups grow their companies. I'm a consultant, but I do it for this nonprofit. And it kills me when I see entrepreneurs spending a lot of family wealth learning how to build a business, and they make all the mistakes. And by the way, nobody will make more mistakes than I have made in my life. And that's why
but we've learned from them.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so what we try to do is we try to protect. That's what a franchise does. It protects the family wealth. It makes sure that it's well spent in the right areas, and trust the systems that you work with, and make that happen. And look, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of different things that you can do with your life, but economically, my tagline is investment shouldn't be tuition. Investment should be for growth capital. You should be growing your business. You shouldn't be learning on that money. But when you think about how you want to build a business and grow a business, it's super important, and a lot of entrepreneurs make this mistake. It's super important to respect the business that you're getting in. Understand that you make business decisions so that you can be successful, and not so much the emotional side, which also can be very fun and rewarding, but you've got to stay focused on the numbers.
You have to make money.
You got to make money, and that's the discipline I think that franchises bring, is they help you understand how to make money and where those opportunities are. By the way, we learn from each other. Hey, guess what's going on in North Carolina today? They did this, and look what happened. Oh my gosh, they did an upgrade promo for teeth brushing in McAllen, Texas, and these were the results. Oh my gosh, I'm going to try that. And those are really powerful stories that you just can't get on your own.
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, we've only got about 5 minutes left. This has been so much fun. I know. But I want to make sure that we talk about what I thought was one of the most important things, and that's your rescue organization. So talk about Woofy Rescue.
It's really about just advocating for dogs and helping that when you're working with us, we want to make sure that there are so many dogs that find themselves in these really unfortunate situations. You remember back when you used to see the commercials on TV and it was just who was it that was singing those songs? And gosh, I can't remember her name. Sarah
Oh,
McLaughlin.
yes.
She'd sing these beautiful
And
songs with these
we're like,
sad pictures.
oh.
And the truth is, these dogs are just they're amazing. And so we're trying to find, we're trying to be supporters. I know you're deeply involved in this as well. We're trying to find ways to bring energy to getting homes for these animals. By the way, not only does our corporate system have this Wolfie program, but not all of them, but a lot of our salon owners work with local rescues. They will actually adopt animals, bring them in, and make other pet parents aware of that. My wife, we own my own franchises as well. So not only am I a starter of this and co-founder, I'm involved in 3 of our locations. And
Oh,
so,
I love it.
yeah, so I mean, I drink this Kool-Aid for sure, and I try to be relevant and be part of the conversation. But my wife is talking about adopting animals that have like wheelchairs and that are disabled, missing an
That
eye, or
nobody
whatever.
wants.
What's that?
That nobody wants.
Yeah, but there are people who want them, but they need homes to support them while they're going through that transition, so that the dogs are ready to be acclimated into a forever home. And so, if you're in a home that can show love and be a part of that. So my point is, this isn't just about our corporation. I really want to give a shout out to all the franchise owners and all the people, yourself, Deb, the people that are really rallying around this. This is a problem in our industry, and it's good business for us to get these dogs adopted because we can do more grooming too. So it serves 2 ends. And I think that Simon Sinek talks about the why. He really has done a great job of helping business owners understand you've got to have purpose behind what you do. That's where you'd really drive impact. And so our purpose is, can we move the needle on this wellness? And part of that is making sure that dogs that maybe aren't in a position to really be well can be put in a place where they are well. And so Wolfie is a big part of that. And we have some other things that are coming down the pipe as well that'll be supporting that. Thank you for asking about it. And we try not to wear that like a badge of honor. We just think it's the right thing to do in our industry, and we just try to be a part of it.
Right. I love it. Well, oh my gosh, we really do have just a couple minutes left. And so if somebody is saying, this sounds good, I want more information, what do you tell them, Mike? How do they find you?
So the easiest way to get involved is to go to wellgroomedopportunities.com. That's more of our B2B kind of site, where if you're thinking about franchising, you want to get involved. If you'd like to learn more about dog grooming and getting your either employment or a partner, maybe you're a partner with a product or you're a partner with a service and you want to participate in our ecosystem. We see about gosh, I don't know. We have about 5,000 or 6,000. No, it's closer to, so about 6,000 referrals a month that we make where we can't help. Like I can't do dog training, but I'll refer dogs that have behavioral issues to dog trainers, and we refer to veterinarians. So right now it's about 6,000 a month. 2 months ago it was 5,000 a month. It's accelerating these referrals. So if you're a partner or you want employment, or you're looking to get your dog groomed, if you're a pet parent who's just really passionate about this and wants to take your dog to a place that's AKC safe certified, fear-free certified. We go through a lot of certifications, making sure that our teams can handle your family members properly. You can go to wellgroomedpets.com and you can get connected to a local salon that'll help you out. And then finally, I'm just going to throw it out there, Deb, if you are somebody who's listening to this and just wants to have a conversation about business, about franchising, or about our system, I'm just Mike Hill, mhill at wellgroomedpets.com. And I respond to all my emails, not always within a few minutes, but I will always get back. So you can reach out to me.
I love it. And I mean, this just, like it said, it speaks to our heart, right? Because even if we don't have dogs, we still love them for the most part. My dad didn't. That was kind of funny.
Oh, really? Was he a cat guy?
He was a cat guy. Now, the funny thing, he was a totally different guy. He worked for the Division of Wildlife. So he was an elk and a moose and he was that kind of guy.
Game. Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so I never had a dog until I got married. And so that was kind of, we had the stepkids. It did, and absolutely love it. But you're right. When we're a pet person, we ignore the person and we're like, we're scritching whatever it is. And so I just love this. And I love everything that you're doing, especially the wellness aspect. I mean, that means so much. So, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Really all I would say is, because I think this is a business program and I'm so passionate about startups. And I would say, believe in yourself and trust. And the world needs your innovation. The world needs that energy that you bring forward. So don't give up on it. But where you can and where you're motivated, ask for help. This thing about, it takes a village for families. Well, I mean, that's controversial, I suppose. But in business, 100%. Work with partners, work with folks. And there's so many people that will believe in what you have. They're part of what this is all about. And if it's in the pet space, my gosh, you can't have a more friendly community of folks that are eager to help you out. So reach out whenever you can. You don't do this on your own. There's people here to help.
I love it. Well, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun talking with Michael Hill, the CEO and co-founder of Well Groomed Pets. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.